Hello everybody. So welcome to this video. I hope you are doing well and I hope you are learning French on regular basis. If it's been a while that you've been learning grammar but you're not able to see good enough progress, I think this video is going to be for you. Okay. So what is the problem that we are making or why we are not able to progress from the grammar to the actual language input component, or why we are not able to actually learn the practical language? When it comes to reading, you start reading something but then it's too complex to understand, it's taking a lot of time. When you try to listen something, nothing is comprehensible. When you try to speak something, your brain just freezes and it's not able to say anything. If this sounds true, then you have to make sure that you're following the advice that I'm going to give in today's video. Okay, so first let's understand what is grammar. Right? Grammar is the rules behind the language, or it's, in other words, it's a tool to understand the structurization of the language. Okay, but however, it should not be taken as the main component of the language, because there are a lot of things that in the language that we learn passively. Okay, learning rules is one thing, but there are a lot of things that we acquire naturally over the time, and they do not have any rule. Okay, like I can give you a lot of examples in Hindi or English as well, but I'm not going to, because obviously I don't have it on top of my brain. Let's take a simple example of pronunciation. In English, PUT is put, okay, but BUT is but. Why there is this pronunciation variation? Okay, now technically in English we have some pronunciation rules, but then this is where it starts to vary and it starts to, exception starts to happen. So in French as well, we have to consider this, that obviously, yes, we can learn some grammar, but we also have to learn the actual language and how to do it. See, here's the problem. Firstly, if you're studying too much grammar, it can cause these three problems. First one is going to be overthinking. When you try to speak something, you are indulging too much in the confusions. Oh, should I use passé composé over here? Should I use en parfait? Or should I use pluscuparfait? What tense should be used, right? If this is going on, then grammar is actually holding you back. It's not helping you. The other thing that you're missing if you're doing too much grammar is the lack of real input. Okay, you have to understand that grammar does not help you make real conversation, or it does not help you listen to real conversations or read the real French. It's only a tool which is going to make you understand the structure. After knowing the structure, you still need to learn a lot of language. The third problem is fear of mistakes. See, the thing is, when we are learning grammar, we always try to make our French perfect. That okay, if you're writing this paragraph, it should be all perfect. Grammatically, it should be all correct. Or when you're speaking as well, you always have this, I should be, if I'm formulating this sentence, it should always be correct. Like, je parle, the verb should be conjugating, which actually holds you back. Why? Because when you're doing too much of this processing in your brain is not able to speak anything. Okay, see, there is something in our brain which is called controller. Okay, like whenever you are trying to speak a language, your brain is actively controlling your formulation so that it can try to speak, or it can try to formulate the sentences correctly and precisely while following the grammar rules. But this is actually the thing which is holding you back. Why? Because when you want to speak, the first thing you should worry about, or the first thing you should work on, is the flow and the natural formulation. Okay, you don't have to worry about perfect grammar rules that you use in your speaking, or perfect, perfect. But these are the three mistakes which we make, because of which we are not able to clear this boundary of stopping the grammar. Okay, so but what you can do over here right now, let's talk about how to stop using the grammar and start with the real life French. First thing you should do is increase your reading and listening input as much as you can. Okay, now if 70 to 80% of your grammar is done, then I would say stop doing it actively and start reading and listening actively. Okay, what do I mean by active reading and listening instead of grammar? If you were investing, let's say you had 3 hours to study. If you were investing your major chunk of time investment into doing grammar, now that should be opposite. If you have 3 hours, your major chunk should go into doing the reading and listening practice. Okay, whereas you can come back to the grammar as a, to learn from it as a tool, or when you will have some confusions. Let's say you are reading a paragraph, but then you saw a concept and you were confused about that concept, but it's like an adjective. Then you can go back to the topic of adjective to read through it and understand, what are the rules behind adjective, and then you will get a proper idea. Oh, okay, this is why this adjective had es at the end, or whatever the rule may be. Okay, so you have to start using grammar as a tool. okay, and use your time mainly to do reading and listening moving forwards. Okay, second thing you should do is to stop being perfect. Okay, see, perfection kills everything. If you try to be perfect, you're going to overwhelm yourself. Okay, so when you are speaking, the goal is not perfection, because perfection will slowly build over the time. The goal is flow. So whenever you are trying to speak anything, whether you are speaking it wrong in terms of conjugations, prepositions, whether you are applying the grammar wrong, don't worry about it. Okay, just speak, record yourself, and once the recording is done, then you can come back to your speaking, the recorded version, to see where did you make grammar mistakes. And then you can actively, your brain will consciously know, okay, that when I was speaking this sentence, this was the grammatical mistake I was making. And the next time you do the practice for that same topic again, and you avoid that mistake consciously. Okay, so this is all which we can do, which will reduce your anxiety level when you are trying to speak anything. Okay, don't worry about grammar when you're speaking. Simple. The third thing is learn grammar naturally, and this is something which I've already touched on a little bit when we were discussing about giving more input through reading and listening, but I want to touch it again because it's very important that when you are doing reading and listening, your goal should always be to go back to the grammar as a reference tool. Okay, you were listening to something, there was a use of passé composé with plus ka parfait, or there was use of am parfait with C clause, but you were like, oh, why this is happening, why with C we are putting this am parfait over here and XYZ. Then you can come back to that chapter of C clause with am parfait if you have studied that, and connect the dots in that way. Okay, you don't need to actively do the grammar first and then do reading and listening. You can do the reading and listening first. If you're confused anywhere in terms of the structurization, then you can use your grammar notes or your grammar lectures to do it. Let me give you a very simple example of babies. Okay, when babies, obviously when babies are in their native environment, they are not learning grammar rules. Okay, when they are picking up with the language, they're not really learning grammar rules. What they're learning, they're just like learning the phrases regularly through context. And obviously we cannot do it. Why? Because it's going to take a long time for us to do it. So that is the reason we still need to do the grammar, but we do not need to get stuck at the grammar, because once you start actually experimenting with the language, once you start reading and listening actively, and once you start speaking without any without any barriers of the grammar, and once you start writing more, that is when you automatically start picking patterns through which your brain will subconsciously work on correcting the grammar. Okay, so this is one thing that I want to connect to my journey as well, because believe me, it's true. For first 4.5 months I was so much obsessed about grammar because I did not have a proper pathway. But once I stopped doing the grammar, and then I switched on to reading and listening practice. Once I started doing reading and listening practice, I actually saw that there is still a lot more in the language rather than just grammar. Okay, so even if you're done with grammar, it's only about 40% of the journey. Still a lot of stuff is needed to be done, but only when you do reading and listening more, you will not only get fluent in the language, but that will help you to passively work on your speaking. Okay, so make sure to follow this advice. If you're done with some grammar, if you have confidence in the overall topics, just stop doing it actively now. Focus on reading and listening, as well as do active speaking and writing. If you want a proper step-by-step pathway on what resources to use apart from grammar, and how to use those resources and in what order to use them, you can watch my video. I'm putting the link down in the description. Make sure to watch this video. It's a step-by-step roadmap to clear your TEF Canada exam. If you're learning French and you need test-specific coaching, you can go ahead and start with the Frenchify programs as well. The link is in the description. Au revoir.